aspirants, welcome to VLN IAS. I welcome you all to the editorial discussion dated 3rd August 2022. Let's start the discussion. So the first topic for today's discussion is about Taiwan crisis. Okay, this topic can be correlated to the following aspects of syllabus. So let's look into the position of Taiwan. It's an important island nation close to the mainland of China. So what is the context? There is a visit by the US House Speaker and veteran Democrat named Nancy Pelosi. You can see her in the pic. And her visit has irked the Chinese government, especially their politicians, diplomats. This is because this is the first visit by any high-ranking US official in the past 25 years in Taiwan. Lastly, there was a visit in 1997. Why Chinese are so much worried about Nancy Pelosi is that she is a anti-China rhetoric activist. In 1991, she gave a famous speech in Tiananmen Square in China, supporting democratic values, democracy, which at that time irked the Chinese officials. It is after the 25 years she is again visiting Taiwan, where China is claiming the sovereignty over the main island region. So let's look into the larger background of the picture about the Taiwan crisis. These are the two important personalities that will come into the picture. And this person is known as Chiang Kai-shek, and this is the famous Chinese leader Mao Zedong. So the story begins in 1895 when there was first Chinese-Japanese war. At that time, Taiwan was under the Japan's control. But after the end of World War II, the Republic of China began ruling Taiwan with the help of USA and UK. So post the independence, in China there was mainly two important political parties. One was the Kuomintang Party and other was Chinese Communist Party. But the Kuomintang Party was not that much popular among the masses due to the undemocratic policies and the wartime corruption that the party carried over that time. So the Communist Party got much popularity among the masses during that time. As a result of this, there was a civil war in China which led to the uprising of communists in China. And as a result of this, the Kuomintang Party and its leader has to flee to Taiwan and seek asylum there. So during the time of civil war, the main leader of Kuomintang Party, Chiang Kai-shek, fled to Taiwan and took asylum there. From there, he started a new party known as Democratic Progressive Party. From Taiwan, he carried out the democratic movement in Taiwan and fought against the dictatorship in the Kuomintang Party. For a long time, Taiwan was cut out from China's control completely, and it rejected the Chinese one country and two system policy also. But post 1980s, there was some relaxation given for the Chinese investment in Taiwan. So this was the background. On this aspect, just look into what is One China policy. This One China policy recognizes the long-held position of Beijing, that is, there is only one China, and Taiwan is a part of it. That means Taiwan is a sovereign part of China. So no separate diplomatic relationship is carried out in Taiwan without Chinese permission. This is similar to India's position on Pak-occupied Kashmir. So we still claim POK as part of India, although the territory is disputed. So in this backdrop, you have to know about the approach of one country, two system. So whenever in newspaper there comes that one country, two system in the diplomatic language, you must know what it is. So it is an idea proposed by Deng Xiaoping, the main communist leader. What he wanted to maintain a good relationship of communist mainland with other Chinese territory which had capitalistic economies, especially Taiwan, Hong Kong and Macau. You know that all this has started during the time of Cold War period. There was a rivalry between the two philosophies of capitalism and socialism. So Deng Xiaoping wanted a good relationship with the capitalistic economy in the Chinese territory like Taiwan, Hong Kong and Macau. For that he introduced a new concept known as one country, two system approach. It was initially proposed for Taiwan, later it was also proposed for Hong Kong and Macau. But the Taiwan people had demands for accepting this approach. First one is that they want to rename People Republic of China to Republic of China, and also they want a democratic election in China. We all know that in China it is a communist party that is supreme. So there is no that much democracy. It is almost similar to an authoritarian government by the Chinese. So he had suggested that there will be only one China. Deng Xiaoping had always supported that there will be only one China, and the distinct Chinese regions like Hong Kong and Macau could retain their economic and administrative system. And in 1984 there was famous British joint declaration with China. So in this, the Britain agreed to hand over Hong Kong to China, and China after that became responsible for the defense and foreign relationship. At the same time, the Hong Kong runs its own internal security. This was similar to what we had the relationship of India with Jammu and Kashmir at the time of Article 370. Let's look into what is the significance of Taiwan to China. Taiwanese had contributed very large to the economic and technological development of China. This Taiwan is known as the main hub for semiconductor manufacture. The major share of the semiconductors are manufactured in Taiwan, which is later used in multinational companies like Apple, Microsoft, etc. But this relationship between China and Taiwan can only be categorized as commensalism. That means Taiwan only derives few benefits. That means Chinese are extracting much from Taiwan, and Taiwanese are benefiting only few from this relationship. So the Taiwanese had come to the realization that in order to have better to boost their economy, they needed to be independent and invest in other countries such as India and New Zealand to prevent from becoming completely dependent on China. So it is in this main issue that Taiwanese are actually asking for independence from the Chinese. On this background, the visit of Nancy Pelosi have brought sharp critical response from Chinese. This is because this Nancy Pelosi was earlier very critical to the Chinese policies in Tibet, which was very much headache to India also, Xinjiang region, Hong Kong also. A sharp response in Beijing would dissuade other countries from engaging with Taiwan. The Chinese was dissuading Taiwan from entering the relationship with other countries. So her visit to Taiwan marks significance that it will be a game changer, and now Taiwan will start establishing their own diplomatic relationship with other countries, which is which is a signal for it to be sovereign also, which Chinese doesn't want. So in the later crisis can be seen only in the coming days on how these two biggest power in the global stage will look after. The next topic for today's discussion is about the freebie culture in our country. This can be correlated to the following aspect of the syllabus. So, what is the contest? There is a concern for the freebie culture in Indian politics. Especially recently, the Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramana, has commented on a public interest litigation on the promise given by irrational freebies. And it has been reported that the Chief Justice of India remarked the freebies were a serious issue and asked the central government to take a stand on this. And Chief Justice also suggested the Finance Commission to look into the matter and propose a solution. So in this backdrop, the freebie culture in our country becomes once more again in news. So let's look into more details about it. So first we look into what is the meaning of this freebie. So freebie is nothing that is given for free of cost or charge. So political parties mainly gives out during the time of election in order to persuade the voters. So it is mainly used as a persuasion tools by the politicians. The freebies are given in the following types like free electricity, water, cycles, electronic appliances, etc. This freebies was given more during the time of pandemic. The government, both union and state government as well as RBI took several measures to mitigate the pandemic effect. So for that they included the expansion of food security schemes and cash transfers, other programs also in order to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. This can be also seen as a type of freebie. So let's look into the type of freebies that is existing in the political landscape. First one is given by the party which is in power. So it mainly comes in the model of, like we know that it mainly comes in the model of government scheme targeting particular group, and also in the election manifestos. Many of the government parties will say that when they will get into power they will do this or project their image like this, or give certain privilege to certain communities like that. There are several freebies given during the election manifestos. Likewise, opposition parties also gives freebies, especially in their manifestos. And they persuade voters by saying that if they are elected to power, they will try to implement these promises. So in this aspect, the report of Election Commission gains prominence. The Election Commission has found that there is a marked phenomenon of freebies being promised in election manifesto released by various political parties. So they before the 2019 general election, there was an increase in the freebie culture in India, which the election commission noted at that time. Let's look into how extensive is the freebie model in our governance in India. We know that majority of the state government persuade the people by giving these freebies. A prominent example for this is Tamil Nadu. They introduced the famous freebie culture by giving liquors, by giving electronic items like television, cycles, etc. The practice, which was earlier in the south, is spread to north states. Recently, in Delhi, government also announced power and water free charge and free bus pass for women during the time of election. And this is also spreading to other states like Telangana, Madhya Pradesh, and Rajasthan. So Let's go into more into the analysis of this freebie culture. First, let's look into the arguments in support of freebies. The first and foremost argument is that we and our constitution and our government always aspire for a welfare state, and this is demanded in the Article 39 Clause B of the Constitution in DPSP. So it gives an obligation for the state to take proactive measures for the welfare of the poor. For this, there should be a resource distribution for achieving the common good. And another supporting argument is that it will help to bridge the inequality in society. We know that the Oxfam report of 2021 has already set about the widening inequality in the society, where the income of 84% of households in the country is declined in 2021. At the same time, the number of Indian billionaires that is added has grown from 102 to 142. And second and the third argument given is that the freebie culture will help to overcome the sacrifices made by the marginalized section. Historically, after the post-independence, there was land reforms and several other government policies. At that time, these marginal sections had to give up their land as a common good and for the governance of the country. So the economists argue that in order to compensate for their sacrifices, there should be equal resource distribution. So this freebie culture is supported by this argument. And finally, the World Bank is also supporting for giving a safety net for the marginalized, which in turn will support the culture of freebies, which gives a safety nets like universal basic income. And the other arguments are these freebies can act as a cushion for emergency. This was clearly visible during the type of pandemic. The free COVID-19 vaccine, which was a freebie, was a life-saving one. Economic push. The other argument that given is that it will give an economic push. The free education and health that we are giving by the government will in turn boost the quality of demography in our country, which in turn helps to increase the productivity of laborers. Incentives. Other argument is that it acts as an incentive for the rich. The well-off and business get freebies that are euphemistically called incentives. If the well-off who didn't really need freebies can get so much, why can't the marginalized get a fraction of it? So the authors arguing that if the well-off person can get the incentives given by the government, then why 5 freebies should be given to the marginalized? Because there should be equality among all, which is a cornerstone of our constitutional philosophy. And the other argument is about social stability. This freebie culture will help to maintain the social coherence and social stability of our society structure. Otherwise, there will be huge cleavage in the social structure existing in the country. Counter arguments against freebies. The first one is that it undermines the spirit of democracy. How? Because if by giving freebies to the voters, they are undermining the main cornerstone of a democracy, like free and fair election. It is the main cornerstone of our democracy. So this freebie culture will persuade the voters and will push will not help the voters to take a quality decision while giving their votes. And fall in productivity. This freebie culture also reduces the productivity of our labor, especially the process like waiver of loans during the election. So it will actually disincentivize the real workers and demoralize them from having a good productive outcome. And the third argument given is that fiscal stress. The money that is given as freebie is from public exchequer, so it will further has an impact on the public exchequer, and which will lead to more fiscal stress, which violates our fiscal responsibility commitment. The another point that the author is giving that it will discourage the origin of honest taxpayers. The honest taxpayers always expect a good quality service from the government from the tax they are giving. So if these freebies are given by the government to the voters, taxpayers will not be encouraged to pay the tax, which will lead to issues like black money, tax evasion, etc. Sectoral collapse. The populist measure of loan waiver will put significant pressure on several sectors, like especially on the banking sectors, which are already facing problems like twin balance sheet problem. The wastage of resources. This freebie culture is nothing but pure wastage of resources, like free water and electricity. An example given is that in the states of Punjab and Haryana, there is a lot of wastage of resources. Niti Aayog also cautions 21 major states of India as running out of groundwater, and this freebie culture is also a result. May also cause an impact on this. So let's look into what are the steps that can be taken to overcome this free freebie menace. So the first step that the author is saying is to have to strengthen the internal party democracy. If this internal party democracy is strengthened, then there will be more grassroots movement from the political party, and also the promise of development and good governance will reach the lower level of the people. So there should not be any issue of freebies, and also the Indian party democracy will reduce the issue of criminalization of politics. And the second, the election commission has suggested, or the election commission has to be given more powers to deregister political parties. So the election commission should be more equipped with powers to have more watch on the election commission, more watch on the political parties. And the third, the government should use the money spent on freebies towards job creation and infrastructure development. This was advised by Madras High Court in 2021. This will help in social upliftment and progression of the state. So Madras High Court in 2021 said that the freebies money should be given for social development, which in turn will have an infiltration effect and will uplift people at the grassroots level. And fourth, that there should now tilted in improving the public expenditure efficiency. So why this so much freebies should be given is because the quality of our service delivery is very poor. So quality of service delivery is very poor. So if a public expenditure quality or efficiency is an asset, then we can increase the quality of the public delivery, which in turn will help to reduce the freebie culture in future. And a classical example for this is the LPG subsidy. Another point is that the government must look more in decreasing the magnitude of black money, because it is this black money that is within the hands of the politicians, which is routed as freebies. So should focus more on unearthing this black money. So the final point is about bringing about attitudinal change among the people. This is what is stressed in the new education policy also. So if we start from the very basic level by educating people, we can overcome this menace of freebie culture. On finally summing up, the author is saying that the country is experiencing this freebie culture for quite a long time, and it has remained suboptimal, inefficient, and unsustainable. So the author is saying that rather than doling out money, we should focus more on its efficiency, spending efficiency. So it is the time for to look more on improving the public expenditure efficiency, so that we have more fiscal space for other development activities. So the next topic for today's discussion is about India Antarctica Bill 2022, and this can be correlated to this aspect of syllabus. So in map, this is the location of Antarctica. It lies in the south pole of the world map. So what is the context? Parliament passed the India Antarctica Bill 2022, and it is regarded as an important step for engagement with the continent, which began way back in February 1956. So now let's look into the historical aspect of the relationship of India with the Antarctica region. So it was Jawaharlal Nehru and V.K. Krishna Menon from India, the first country in the world to request for an item for agenda in United Nations General Assembly. So it was India's first request in UN General Assembly that began the expedition to Antarctica. The question of Antarctica came in a resolution in UN General Assembly as a request of pushed forward by India. But it did not go further because at the same time during that period there was a crisis of Suez and Hungary similar to this. So several countries like Argentina and Chile were not favoring for this. Later, this Nehru-Menon initiative was further pushed forward by the permanent representative to UN, Arthur, named as Arthur Law, played an important role for getting consensus about from various countries. But this movement from India, which took the consensus from the capitalist countries at that time, irked the emotions of USSR, which was a socialist country. So in India, which was tilting towards USSR at that time, did not want to irritate USSR much. So they did not go further with the Antarctica Treaty, and this treaty faded up from India's geopolitical gaze. But in 1982, India transformed its international discourse by sending India's first Antarctic expedition, named as Operation Gangotri. So what is India's first Antarctic expedition known as Operation Gangotri? So it was a eye-opener for many countries in the world, and it is said that Indians quietly invaded Antarctica, and India was criticized by several other countries for this. But India said that beyond global geopolitics and strategic consideration, there were several other factors that forced India to have such an expedition. Especially Indira Gandhi, who who was the prime minister at that time, pushed forward the ecological dimension of Operation Gangotri, as a result of which today we are studying about the thawing of icebergs, which help us to know much about the sea level rise. This forced IPCC, that is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, to study more about the thawing of ice, which helped more India to study about the Himalayan glacier in the current period, which is set to come to an extinct stage in 2035. So let us know more about the Antarctica bill, which is proposed currently in the parliament. So what is this? It is the first domestic legislation in India with regarding the jurisdiction of Antarctica. So what is the main objective? It's set of a regulation for scientific expedition, individuals and tourists and other businesses. So it is an inclusive bill which includes almost all stakeholders. And the most important aspect is that the bill helps the Indian courts or extends the Indian courts jurisdiction over the Antarctica region, mainly in the Indian expedition. What are the main objectives? First, to demilitarize Antarctica, So these are some major objectives of the bill. Demilitarize Antarctica to establish a zone free of nuclear waste. You know that the nuclear waste dumping is a very critical issue. So many countries have taken Antarctica as a safe zone for nuclear waste disposal. So this treaty also puts regulation on the nuclear waste disposal by India, and also for peaceful purpose only, by using Antarctica as a common heritage for peaceful purpose only, international scientific cooperation in Antarctica, and for settling disputes in the territorial sovereignty. Why such a need for Antarctica bill? This is because Antarctica is a pristine environment, and the ocean surrounding Antarctica is very critical for the marine living resource, and human presence can alter the ecological balance of that region. So India expects an increased activity in Antarctica in the coming years. Need for an India-Antarctica bill. For the past 40 years, India has sent about so many expeditions to Antarctica. So there was a need for legislation to regulate these expeditions to Antarctica, especially for the jurisdiction of the courts that we discussed earlier. And also there are several protocols regarding Antarctica Treaty and several protocols. So these should be taken place in the domestic legislation. To cover up that aspect also, and this India-Antarctica bill was very much essential. So, what are the main important provisions of India-Antarctica bill? It mainly aims at what is the important aspect, environmental protection, and the most significant provision is that the Indian courts jurisdiction over Antarctica region, and it sets a quota system for commercial fishing in the area, and it regulates the Indian tour operators to operate in Antarctica, and the other aspect is like waste management. Okay, now let's look into some significant aspect of the bill. First one is about the permit system. So it permits certain activities like travel to this continent, and it regulates the movement of tourists, business, and other individual activities. And another important significant aspect is that it prohibits certain activities like drilling, dredging, excavation, collection of mineral resources, etc. And also it prevents the damage to native plants, flying or landing helicopters, and other ecological imbalance causing activities. And also it provides provision for penalty system for the activities that damage the Antarctica ecology. The bill also includes harsh penalties, with the lowest penalty ranging from 2 years in prison and fine up to 10 to 15 lakhs. So, so far we have discussed about the domestic legislation regarding the Antarctica. Now let us look into some international law governing Antarctica. The first important law governing Antarctica is about Antarctica Treaty. This treaty applies to the area south of 60 degrees of south latitude. That means in the globe on the 60-degree latitude, the area concerning about south of 60-degree latitude is applied to this treaty. Mainly the countries under this treaties are Argentina, Australia, Belgium. How this European countries comes into picture is that there are certain colonies under these countries which are in the Antarctic region or South Ocean region. Chile, French Republic, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, Union of South Africa, Soviet Union, UK, Northern Ireland, etc. The Antarctica Treaty currently has 54 signatories, but only 29 have voting rights. So, some questions may be asked in prelims that all the members have the voting rights is a wrong option. Only 29 have voting rights. In 1983, India ratified an Antarctica Treaty. So this is an important aspect that India in 1983 itself ratified the Antarctica Treaty and was granted consultative status in the same year. Another important law governing Antarctica is Protocol on Environmental Protection to Antarctica Treaty. So it was signed in 1991 and came to force in 1998, and it designated Antarctica as a natural reserve dedicated to peace and science. So it is the Protocol on Environment Protection of Antarctica Treaty that designated Antarctica as a natural reserve dedicated to peace and science. The another one is Convention on Conservation of Antarctica's Marine Living Resources, known as CCAMLR. It was established in 1980, mainly to protect and preserve Antarctic environment, especially to preservation and conservation of Antarctica marine living resources. Now let's look into the significance of Antarctica to India. First and foremost is this it is a geopolitical landscape. So there is geopolitical significance to this because it is a common heritage. And also so many of the upcoming powers will push for the power rivalry in this area. And another important aspect is about connectivity. So climate change results in thawing of ice, which will provide good connectivity route in Antarctica region. So getting sovereignty in this place will provide more connectivity in the southern hemisphere. And another significance is that India ratified Antarctica Treaty. So it also has an observer status also. So it has a good say in Antarctica as a part of this. And another one is research and development. A good study in the ice of Antarctica will help India to know more about glaciers in India, like Himalayan glaciers, Hindu glaciers in the South Asian region, which will help to forecast its weather activities, mainly the current scenario of climate change. So these are the main significance of Antarctica for India. So this is all for today's discussion. Hope you liked the discussion. Please subscribe our channel for the future updates. Thank you.